Friends, we're doing a series on Julius Caesar, one of the very famous Shakespearean tragedy. And this lesson is about the themes and the metaphors which are used in the play. It's again an important part of the play because every play, and especially when it is Shakespeare who is going to write it, it has lots of metaphors and insightful meanings. So we need to understand, if you need to understand the whole play, what the characters are actually saying and doing, and what are we allowed to see happening. So this lesson is presented by me, Palak Sharma. Few things about me: I'm an economics honors student, then I'm a poet at heart, a theatre geek, a mixture of Keats and Shakespeare. And once you're done watching this lesson, do review, rate, recommend, and share this. Here's my link to Unacademy. You can follow me right here. Now we're doing the theme of Caesar. So we know that it's a play about political power and the use of it illegitimately and legitimately. So there is a role of public opinion in the play. We know that there is a kind of responses among the common folk, what is right and what is wrong. But we also know that the public folk is fickle. They are fickle-minded people. They do not know what is right and what is wrong. The one who comes to them, one who gives them nice oratory speech, rhetoricism with it, they just sway towards them. If Brutus comes and says, I've killed Caesar for the love of Rome, then they will say, yes, Brutus, you may live, Brutus live. But if they see that Antony comes and reads to them the will that Caesar was not ambitious, then there are even those people who will say that let's kill Brutus and the conspirators. So they do not have any moral inside them, any certain allegiance to any kind of group which is within them. So we should know that in the play we are not sure that who is the main hero. We know there's Caesar, there's Brutus, there's Cassius, there's Antony, and who is the central character? We are confused. Everybody has their own part to play. There's Caesar, who is ambitious, who has his own power, who has his own might, and who is unconquerable for the rest of the world. He defeated Pompey, and there's no one to challenge him for his power now. Then there's Brutus, the good guy. He is the person who's not sure whether he's doing wrong or not, and he's the one who's wronged the entire time in the play. We are actually seeing the struggle, the internal struggle between Brutus's good side and the bad side when we are seeing the whole play. Then this Cassius, he's the arrogant one. He's not the one who will be giving and succumbing to Caesar's rule so easily. So he's the one who's going to oppose to it. Then there's Antony. So Antony is a loyal friend, as we all know. And Antony is a manipulative person. He becomes arrogant as soon as he gains power after Caesar's assassination. So we see that Caesar's assassination was not a very good turning of event in Rome. Because we have seen that Caesar was, though an arrogant leader or authoritarian leader, he was a just person. He knew what was right for the Roman Empire and what was wrong for it. He always worked for the good of Rome. Never in his own interest did he do something which would hurt the goodwill of Rome. We know Brutus was a man of conscience and a noble person, but yet his decision of being a part of the conspiracy to assassinate Caesar was not a good one, was not a legitimate one, because he never saw all the aspects of the reality. He just imagined. The whole assassination took place on just one assumption of what if. What if Caesar became ambitious? What if he did nothing for the good of Rome? What if his aspirations grew bigger than his love for Rome? So this was all in what if. There was nothing apart from what if that led to this kind of assassinations conspiracy. And then there was Cassius, who was intellectual, who was manipulative, but yet his motive was never nice. He was always the bad guy who would manipulate other good guys and make them a part of his team, the bad team. And there was Antony, who was a loyal friend, a demagogue, because he knew how to convince people with his own rhetoricism, his own oratorial skills. So he was, in short, a person who knew how to make his path in a very difficult situation. So we also see that Caesar was not actually a very good person, because you've seen that he was always in vain proud and always using third person to talk about himself. So we can see a sense of ambitious nature and a sense of vanity also when we're talking about Caesar and when we read Caesar in a very small part which he has in the play. So we can see that though Brutus and all these people imagined what Caesar could be, it could actually be the reality that we never knew. We never knew what would have happened if Caesar would have been a king for such a long time, or had Caesar accepted the crown when it was offered to him for the fourth time in the assembly when they were in the Senate at that time. So we never knew what would have happened had Caesar been the king. So there's just a kind of assumption we can make that who was right, who was wrong. It's all in our minds. We are not quite sure who can be right, who can be wrong. It's all on us in our minds. Shakespeare gave us every opportunity to think that even Cassius could be good. People can even have a sympathy for Cassius. I've met lots of people who find Cassius very rightful in doing what he did, and they do feel pity for him. So it's all your judgment, whom you find the hero, whom you find the villain. So it's all on you. So we come on the metaphorical analysis of the play. So the leading characters in the play, they are all public figures. This is again an important thing. They are all public figures and they are as such practice speakers. So in his book Shakespeare, there's Mark Van Doren who points out that the characters, they all tend to talk in the same efficient, carefully structured way. So, but if all the characters are in a sense orators, some are better than all the others. So the supreme orator we see is Antony. Antony's funeral oration, it contains one of the most famous examples of irony in all literature. Irony occurs when the real meaning of the word is the opposite of the literal meaning. So in his speech in Act 3rd and Scene 2nd, Antony plays on the word honorable like a musician. He's extracting different nuances from the same repeated note. The first time he uses it is when he says, "For Brutus is an honorable man, so they are all honorable men." So the ironic intention is not yet apparent, at least to his audiences, but we know what's going on. The audience in the theatre, the one who are seeing it in the play, they'll be alert to it because they know that since Antony made his feelings and his intentions known in his last speech of the previous scene, so they know that yes, he was the one who had to avenge Caesar, so he'll be speaking it in a satirical way. So it will be an irony here. So we see that before pausing to weep, Antony repeats the phrase, "This Brutus is an honorable man," 3 times, by which time his meaning is clear to everyone, even the one who are present on the stage. But through his use of irony, he has managed to keep at the literal level his agreement not to speak ill of the assassins. So in the remainder of his speech, he repeats the word honorable no less than 5 times, I guess, and in reference to Brutus, Cassius, and even all the rest of the conspirators. So the word acquires more and more ironic force with each repetition, and until it rings out as a fierce condemnation of the murderers. So Antony, he's also the master of another device which is often used in oratory, the rhetorical question. So a rhetorical question is the one that is posed for its effect. Like it doesn't require a reply since the answer is obvious. Like suppose I'll be speaking to you in 2 ways. Firstly, I would say that do you think she's a nice girl? And second, I would say that don't you think she's a bad girl? So the second question has its own effect that you cannot say that she's a good girl. You just have to agree with me and say yes. Even if you say yes, you're saying she's a bad girl. Even if you're saying no, she's a bad girl. I'm asking you, don't you think she's a bad girl? So it's a rhetoric question. It's the one that is posed for its effect. The answer, the reply, it's obvious. So the effect one gains through rhetorical question, it is usually greater than would be the case if it were rephrased as a direct statement. So for example, imagine Antony's rhetorical question. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? Now rephrase it as a statement, like we can say, this shows that Caesar was not ambitious. This more or less seems like a question in our science modules, or we are saying hence proved in maths. It's not a typical literature question. So an important distinction between the two speeches is that Brutus speaks in prose, whereas Antony speaks in blank verse. And the difference in the context and effect of the speeches, it's that Brutus explains his actions in a straightforward, logical, and well reasoned way. But Antony, he uses every trick in the book to stir up the passion and create the drama within the people. So, this is a metaphor which we have missed in the play, and you can just go through the play's important parts which are mentioned in this metaphorical analysis. And it would be better if you could just note down some points from it, your own points, and write them in the comment section, and let it be interactive. What you know, just share with me, and what I know, I'll be sharing with you, even I'm a novice. So, that's that. Have a nice day. Thanks a lot. Rate, review, recommend, and share the lesson.